hit. J1. Ha! Commit. J10. Oh, you struck like battleship.
All right, guys, I want to thank you a ton for all your well wishes to my poor wife who's suffered a little bit. It's not terrible. The bubbles are still there, but she's getting better. I know the pain of having burns. One time I burned myself so bad, back of my leg, I was watching my skin and the fat underneath bubble, and that really hurt a ton. So she's getting there, but I really do appreciate all the kind words you said. I told her, one guy was saying, use honey. My mother-in-law just took all the honey, so we're getting more honey for it. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate everything. Today, I want to get into framework. I want to talk about Saquon Barkley and what does that say about football and what does it say about the Dolphins. A little bit of tidbit notes before that. And it does say a lot, not just simply run the football, like I've said for a long time. It says more than that. And I'm going to dig into some stuff to show you why I'm saying this. The live I usually do on Fridays back. It's going to be half an hour earlier, 9:30 Eastern, because I'm getting old, man. I need some sleep. So 9:30, come check me out tonight at the live if you're interested. I hope you do. AFC Shakedown, the final of the season at Mafia Sports Report. I'll be there with all the guys talking the AFC East, and I'm sure they're going to give me some ribbing. But I got the Jets. I can always have the Jets in my back pocket to get back at them. So that's the whole deal. Now, we heard that Tua is getting shut down, or it seems that way. It seems like a muscle strain on the hip that he injured a long time ago. And he says, you could tell by the way he's reacting, this is going to be a thing unless we're going really deep into the postseason. Yeah, you never know, but I'm not betting on it. We got to get there first. But so it looks like he's definitely going to get shut down. And we're going to have Huntley tomorrow at a 4 o'clock game. I'm going to cover that tonight and maybe a podcast tomorrow. And I was going to do the podcast on the Jets today, but I'm sure a lot of people are doing it. And I'm going to cover it tonight. But I just really think this is an important thing to focus on. So Tua is not going to be with us. I think people are fixating on him too much. I mean, clearly, you got to fixate on him. But in a sense, it's an over-fixation because, again, with Tua, we drafted him. And once you draft him, the whole goal of anybody who's a coach or GM is to create a framework to hide his flaws and accentuate his strengths. And we didn't do that. We don't do that a lot. We're back with Achane. We did it with Tannehill. We've done it so many times with so many players. You've got to set the right framework. And again, it goes back to Barkley. And you're going to see the framework is everything and is a lot that goes into it. Tua had his injury history. We drafted him that way, and we should have been well prepared, and we weren't. I'm also hearing, too, people saying that Austin Jackson, his absence really affected our run game. And next year, he's going to be a big piece for us. And that's not my evaluation. Maybe I'm wrong or whatever. But you go look at the games where we ran really well. We had a good game against Jacksonville week 1, but it was nowhere until they started wearing them out. And they're a smaller front. Jackson struggles in the run game. He's a little bit better than in the pass game, but he has clear flaws in my evaluation. And I think this is hype. I think this is bad evaluations. If you think that Jackson, who's injured a ton, I mean, you talk about Tua being injured, he's been injured a ton as well. And so you add the injuries and what you see on the tape, we can't run this scheme forever that we're running. This quick throw stuff and hides a lot. It's a failed scheme in a lot of ways. You could use bits of it, but we've got to change this scheme, and it's going to demand more from your front, your offensive line front, and I don't think Jackson can handle it. So I do think this is hyperbole. Clearly, he's better than Lamb. He's bigger and younger, but not like, worlds of difference. I really do think that people have a bad evaluation on Jackson that way, but I guess we'll find out next year. Maybe. Depends if the GM is the same or not. I have a feeling that if the GM comes in, that Jackson might not be around too much longer. If he's a good GM. You not that you want to get rid of him right away. He can be a piece, but you clearly want to upgrade on him. So, Saquon Barkley, if you love running backs, this guy, you look at his talents, it's one of those special, rare players. And he struggled quite a bit over the years. Some of it's because of injuries, but mostly because the offensive line of the Giants sucks. And the framework was terrible. And I'm going to show you the difference between good framework and bad framework. I'm going to show you the difference between good offensive line and bad offensive line. And if a guy who's an a real all-time talent physically, and, when running the football, he's special. He would have been successful in the 2000s, early 2000s, and the 90s and the 80s. This guy is a very, very special player. But if he's going to be constricted by poor framework and a poor offensive line, what does that say about everything else? But you look at the Eagles. See, every team's got assets as far as their scouting staff, maybe to get lucky. I don't know how you want to call it, chance, whatever. But they just have a tendency to do things better than other teams in certain areas. We have areas where we're good at. But one of the keys, because football is about the trenches and the offensive line makes the NFL world go round, you've got to be able to have success finding offensive linemen. And whoever we've got, whether it's Greer and his staff or somebody else, we got to hope that they get this area right. So Malata, 6'8", 365, he's like a former rugby player. They found him in the 7th round, and this guy's one of the best in the league. And it's not an off shot because Kelsey they found in the 6th round, and this guy was a stud. Lane Johnson, 4th overall. We went with Dion Jordan, over him. We could have got him. And just imagine, we would have still had this guy. And, you look at Jackson's build and look at Lane Johnson's build. You've got to add some of these things in. Where the guy's supposed to go on a play and his technique, those are all critical and it's valuable information. It's valuable to assess. But the core of the player is their physical ability. It takes a ton to overcome poor physical ability. And you look at Lane Johnson, this guy looks like he's a professional bodybuilder in a lot of ways. And Jackson was younger when we got him. And maybe he'll get there. There's things to like about this kid, and maybe he can get there. But clearly, not a great prototype, and not a great move for Jordan. Becton, remember, he was struggling. They had him outside, and he's too big, and he has a bad knee. They move him inside. They put him next to Johnson. And when you anchor guys next to superstars on the offensive line, it lifts their game up. And Becton's had a great season. He's been very good, one of his best seasons, and he's a guy who's going to be there for him. And they got him for a song and a dance. But we're so limited in our scheme because it's outside zone, lots of gap, lots of movements to get things done, to get the angles because we can't physically handle them. We didn't see this. And because we had Eichenberg, remember? I'm sorry, Eichenberg. We could have had him for nothing. I mean, maybe if he wanted to come here. So they've been found, and look at Lane Dickerson. They got him in the 2nd round, 1 pick before Holland, 6'6", 325. All these guys are big physical guys that we would love to have here, and it should be the prototype. And you've got to. So one of Greer's biggest problems is he loves to trade up and throw away picks. Be like, it's only a 4th round pick, it's only a 3rd round pick, it's only a 5th round. But in football, when you're a GM, you're missing more than you're hitting. So the more talent or assets you have to take shots on talent, and the better you are at evaluation to hedge those bets, the more likely you are to find guys. And this is one of my biggest knocks on Greer. He had plenty of picks, plenty of opportunity to build a superstar team. Can't believe it, I was a huge Greer fan when he was acquiring them, but his expenditures of them is what the problem was. And you can't just throw, you could have traded that Chubb pick 1st and 3rd, I think it was. You could have taken that first, even if it was like a little bit in the back end, and it was. You could have used that pick to trade back, acquire more ammo. But I think Greer at a certain point said, I got so much ammo, so many players on his team. I'm just going to go get peak players. But the problem was a lot of the guys he had weren't good. And then you went from about 2 or 3 years ago to the youngest team to now the oldest team. And so there's a lot of issues there. But you've got to hope that the Dolphins have not had a good offensive line in decades. And that's the core. We just started to have something good with Incognito, but then we got, what's the guy's name? The Bullygate guy at the right tackle, Jonathan Martin. And that was just a crazy draft pick. And we were sort of getting there a little bit. Long, we went on Long. It was a great pick. Total freak ended to his career. What a shame. But, you look at Pouncey and you can look at Tunsil. Tunsil was a very easy pick. We found some peak guys, but we got off Tunsil and we got some bad luck with Long. But through the process, you look at the people we've drafted, we haven't really hit well. And I think for Greer, too, he's stuck on guys like Jackson and Eichenberg and maybe Jones to validate himself or something, because we could have moved off these guys. You've got to keep going till you get the right guys, and you've got to have a farm system. Part of the thing is we love multiplicity. You guys in multiple positions. Why? Because we don't have enough, and we need, if one guy goes down, and because we got lots of guys with injury history, they need to play all over the place. But this is not the best way. Even with the Eichenberg, he was a left tackle, then he right tackle, left tackle, then he went to guard, center. You got to keep guys in the right position and see what they can do. But part of the multiplicity is because we don't have a lot, and we got guys that get injured a lot, and it's just a very bad framework. So if you look at Barkley from last year to this year, this guy could have shattered the rushing record if he wanted to play this week. He had, I think it was less carries than Dickerson on his 2,100 season. I think he's 1997 now. I think that's what the deal is. But you look here, the top is him with the Eagles and the bottom is him with the Giants. And I've talked in the past that yards before contact is so critical, because if you have the line of scrimmage, every bit of yardage that you get beyond that line of scrimmage, you're getting your running back not getting hit by the bigger guys, which is harder to break down. You're getting him into the linebackers. And if you get a little bit more, then you're starting to see safeties, and it helps the running back to get momentum, to create space, to have choices, but then deal with guys more on his size level, and it uplifts the running back. But when you have bad yards before contact, guys get constricted because now they're getting against bigger guys. They get beat up more, and it limits them. And part of the problem is Achane is if you put Achane on this team, the Eagles team, what would he do? But you can see last year, it's unbelievable because of certain things. And I've gone over it. This year, not so much. Why? Because he's not that good? No, it's that the blocking is terrible. And the blocking being terrible is way more than simply Jackson not being in. And so you look at, here's the graphic, so you don't have to look at me. You can see the top, again, it's the Giants, top is Eagles, bottom is Giants. And so you look at the purple box I got there at the top, and it shows everything is 4 yards or better per attempt. Bottom, you'll see 2 spots, the left end 6.6, you see right guard 6 with the Giants last year, and everything else is under par. But it goes more to that. Look at what he was getting last year, not 0.99 yards before contact, and he was generating, it's 3.9 total on the season, the little red circle. And then the other red circle to the right, 2.91. He was generating 2.91 yards before contact. That's incredible season. And it's very easy to say, well, he wasn't that good. He only had 3.9 yards per carry. But then he comes to the Eagles. He's got 5.8 per carry in the green circle. And he's got 3.16 after contact. But you go to the top, yards before contact was 2.64 this season compared to 0.99. And he increased his yards after contact by 0.25, which is a lot when you got 342 carries. Now, he's had a lot of carries, more than he had last year. So there's certain things you can't really pin on, broken tackles and things like that, and total yards. But he clearly doubled his yards with about maybe 30% more carries. But the purple box, see, got 72 was his long, 36 was his long this last season. And if you look, I've been saying for a long time, the offense, the main potency of an offense is they know where they're going, they know what they're doing, they know the snap count. And the defense has got to play battleship. And if you don't have certain areas or certain things you want to do, You're already narrowing the board where you think that battleship is, and it makes it harder for everybody. It makes it harder for the OC, it makes it harder for the quarterback, and harder for the running back. But with the Eagles, if you noticed last year, I've been saying for a while, they've been doing this, I hate it, the shotgun draws, or that's the running game, and it doesn't work because you can read that shotgun much easier than under center. They've opened up their run scheme. They've put the quarterback under center more. And all this stuff just adds more space for the defense to find that battleship. And so if you understand what we do here, it's outside zone. It's all based on movement, quick throws, and it's all done to mask flaws and to try to find something amid these flaws. And so if we're going to shift to a real, proper philosophy, there's a lot that goes into it. You've got to add certain guys, but then some of the guys that you got, if you want to get the proper philosophy where you're adding inside zone, you're going under center, it's going to put some other guys in problems. We have a lot of work to do because not only do we have to get the right players in, we're going to have to change stuff. You want to get Tua to the line, or whoever the quarterback is, to the line of scrimmage early so he can call audibles. You want him under center. Look at the Lions. They are under center more often than not in the red zone. And that is a big reason why they put so many points on. It makes it much more complicated. But when you're under center, you got to have a center and a front that can hold up so you just don't get blown up. And so Barkley is a prime example of a super talent constricted by bad framework, most notably the offensive line. Obviously, the offensive line and the running back go hand in hand. A great running back can make things happen, but never be great without a great offensive line, unless you're Barry Sanders because of his unique style. But that was hit or miss, and you could see when he went to the postseason, he was shut down. But Barkley reflects on Tua, it reflects on Achane, it reflects on Hill, it reflects on everything. This offensive line and this very pigeonholed scheme is a black hole sucking everything down. And yes, we've got to run the football more. Yes, we've got to have an ability to run inside. But then after that, it talks about how Greer is just very poor at philosophy. I've been saying things for years, and it's not because I'm, a rocket scientist. These are just basic tenets. I said years ago, and I said it multiple times, the road less traveled is less traveled for a reason, because most people don't, it doesn't make all the difference. Most people are eaten by bears and pooped out. What Greer did with his offensive line was ridiculous. He got locked in, he spent a second and third, which was a bad move on Eichenberg, but then he couldn't get off him because he couldn't admit his mistakes. And it's the whole idea of the quick throw is to hide this front. The whole idea with getting fast guys to run to the edge is because we know we can't run inside. And so there is a lot going on here, and we've got to get a GM who understands framework, who understands how to build a team right, from the philosophical, the schematic, and the talent acquisition point. And Barkley is going to go down, probably, if he doesn't get hurt, as one of the top backs. And most of it had to do with him leaving a bad organization and a bad framework and a bad GM and going to the right one. So, guys, whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens in the offseason with Greer, you've got to hold on to the core of what we do here is inept. It's totally, totally inept. It's dated for a previous style of football. The new style is pass balance. It's about being under center and then in shotgun, having different kind of blocking schemes, but you've got to be able to run inside, and you've got to have an offensive line. You don't get the two-a-days. And so you need more talent to offset the lack of chemistry and the lack of those reps creating that chemistry. So people are saying that it's not in a bad spot. It is. We're very far away. We are very, very far away in my evaluation. Am I right? I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I got for you guys. Again, I appreciate everything. Come check me out at the live. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you can, hit the notification bell and comment. I'm getting the comments today. So will be very, very interesting season. More interesting off season. Very interesting last game, and more interesting offseason. Let's see how it plays out. Let's hope we finally get somebody coherent. We need it. There's no way this thing is going forward with what we got in totality. Maybe pieces, maybe Weaver, maybe McDaniel. I don't know. Maybe Tua. But certainly not with Greer. So that's it, guys. Hope all's well. Curtis says, be well, go Fins. I'm tired. Be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.